You ever look at a picture and feel your stomach drop before your brain catches up? That was me, standing in the middle of our open-concept kitchen, phone in one hand, coffee in the other, scrolling through my wife's Cabo girls trip pics on Instagram. Sunshine, frozen cocktails, girls in wide-brimmed hats, the usual. But then I see it. One shot she didn't post herself, but she's tagged in. She's lounging by a pool, grinning like a toothpaste commercial, and in the corner of her sunglasses reflection is a glint of gold. Not just any gold, that gold. That goddamn gold Rolex I've seen 100 times on Dan Mullen's wrist, my coworker for marketing. You can't miss it. Big, chunky thing, like he's compensating for the fact that nobody actually listens to his Monday morning strategy monologues. I freeze. Not scroll freeze, I mean internally freeze. My fingers still working, my face probably still calm, but inside, everything's rearranging itself. She's been in Cabo for 4 days. She told me she needed time to reconnect with herself and just unwind without screens or stress. She even posted a boomerang of her lighting incense with the caption, Self-Care Week. I let the photo sit on my screen for a full minute. Then I zoom in. Enhance. CSI style. The reflection's faint, but clear enough if you know what to look for. That's Dan's watch. I'd recognize the weird diamond flake pattern on the dial anywhere. Hell, I helped him pick it out. Company bonus year, he dragged me to Gold Time on Michigan Avenue to get something with presents. Presents, my ass. I sit down at the kitchen island, laptop out. This is when the quiet obsession starts. I'm not emotional. Not yet. I'm just curious. Curious like a detective at the start of a slow-burn noir movie. Why the hell is my coworker in Cabo with my wife? VPN logs from the office? Easy. I still have sysadmin access from the last round of layoffs. Dan's IP shows no connection since Tuesday. Today's Saturday. His Slack status is set to remote client meeting, which is code for I'm drinking somewhere with Wi-Fi. I start pulling timestamps. Cross-checking her post with his. A sunset shot she posted matches the same palm tree silhouette he shared with a dumb caption like, hustle even when it's paradise. His reflection shows up in a cocktail glass in one of her stories. He's wearing that stupid linen shirt he only pulls out when he's trying to look effortlessly cultured. The next day, I play it cool. Text her a casual, hope you're relaxing, love you message. She replies an hour later with a heart emoji and a photo of the ocean. No sign of Dan, but now I know he's there, hiding just outside the crop lines. The bastard's in stealth mode. At work, I keep my head down. Dan returns the next week with a tan and a PowerPoint deck he swears is inspired by island simplicity. He pitches it to the team like he just came down from Mount Sinai with marketing commandments. I watch him, sipping my coffee, smiling politely, nodding at the buzzwords. The whole time I'm thinking, you're gonna regret that trip, buddy. Both of you will. I don't confront her. What's the point? She'd lie. He'd deny. No, I want something more cinematic. A reveal that hurts. A revenge that sticks. So I start gathering. Photos. GPS metadata. Slack logs. Cross-reference timestamps. Every poolside kiss. Every shared Uber ride. Every champagne flute clink. Documented. It takes 3 weeks. I build it slowly. Frame by frame. A digital scrapbook of infidelity, narrated silently in my mind like Morgan Freeman's darker twin. And when it's ready, I print it. Glossy, full-page color prints. Leather-bound, classy as hell. A photo album of betrayal. And I plan a party. Oh yeah? Her birthday's coming up. I send out the invites. Friends. Family. Co-workers. Dan. His girlfriend, too. Had to dig through his Instagram followers to find her, but I did. Sent her a heartfelt DM about how much I admire her strength. She RSVPs yes. The guest list is locked. The venue is booked. And I've got front row seats to a meltdown they'll never forget. I spent the week leading up to her birthday acting like nothing was wrong. Smiling at texts. Asking her what kind of cake she wanted. Letting her choose the venue. Some loft-style space in the West Loop with exposed brick and string lights. Very Pinterest core. She wanted it intimate. Just close friends and family. I nodded and said that sounded perfect. Meanwhile, I was busy becoming an event planner with the instincts of a federal investigator. I had a spreadsheet of confirmed guests, a second spreadsheet tracking every instance of her cheating that I could verify, and a third one labeled chaos variables, just in case someone decided to show up drunk or early. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. This was going to be clean, elegant, and devastating. I even coordinated with the print shop for the album. I wanted premium quality, matte leather cover, gold trim title, A Year in Sunlight. Inside, every page was numbered, every image cropped with surgical precision. Each had a caption in neat font, date, time, GPS location, and a simple quote. Just enough to let the audience fill in the blanks. I wasn't just making evidence. I was crafting an experience. The day before the party, she was buzzing with energy, picking out outfits, texting her friends nonstop. I watched her glide through the apartment like a woman in a romantic comedy, humming some Taylor Swift song, totally oblivious. I honestly felt impressed. She was so committed to the role, so confident in her little charade. That night in bed, she curled up next to me like nothing had changed. Asked if I was excited for tomorrow. Absolutely, I said. I think it'll be unforgettable. She smiled into my chest and said, "You're the best, you know that?" I kissed her forehead and whispered, "I do." The next day, I made sure everything was perfect. Venue was prepped, AV system tested, backup flash drive loaded just in case. My buddy Marcus helped me out. He owed me after I covered for him during his own divorce mess. He handled the tech and the guest check-in. "You sure you want to do it like this?" he asked as we unloaded the final batch of champagne. "Yup," I said, flipping open the trunk. "I want it public, and I want it permanent." Guests started arriving around 6. Family first, then her friends, then mine. Dan rolled in right on time, wearing a smug grin and a blazer that was trying way too hard. He brought her a tiny blue box from Tiffany's. I had to physically restrain my eyes from rolling back into my skull. He didn't notice me at first. When he did, he walked over, all teeth and charm. "Hey man, long time no see. Been busy?" I said, shaking his hand. "Good to see you." "Yeah, Cabo was wild." He chuckled, completely unaware. "Wish you could have made it." I felt like I was there, I said, and I meant every word. Then she arrived. She walked in wearing this floor-length navy dress, all smiles and high heels, the kind of look she pulls when she wants to pretend her life is flawless. Everyone clapped. She waved. Hugs all around. I handed her a glass of Prosecco and kissed her cheek. "Happy birthday," I said, guiding her toward the center of the room. Got a little surprise lined up. Her eyes lit up. "Oh my God, what kind of surprise?" I smiled. A walk down memory lane. She didn't even register the tone. She was already turning to greet someone else. Once everyone had arrived, about 30 people total, I took the mic. "Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight to celebrate Leah. I know she told you this would be a chill party, but let's be honest, the woman never does anything halfway." Laughter. Nods. A few cheers. Dan clapped the loudest. "Idiot. I wanted to do something special," I continued. "Leah's always documenting everything. Photos, videos, stories. She's practically our own National Geographic filmmaker. So I thought, why not put together something that captures her? Year in Sunlight." There was a small table up front. On it, the album. I handed it to her with a dramatic little bow. She looked confused. "What's this?" "Just open it. Start from the beginning." She did. The first page was from a company retreat we took together. Innocent enough. A picture of her and me at the lake. Second page, brunch with her friends. Third page, her birthday last year. Then came Cabo. Her hand hesitated. The crowd leaned in. You could feel the shift in energy, like a thunderstorm rolling in from nowhere. Fourth page, the sunglasses photo. Zoomed in. Reflection enhanced. Caption, April 17th, 2:43 p.m. Villa Azul poolside. Guest, Daniel Mullins. Rolex Model 2, 28238. She flipped to the next page. Another shot. Different angle. This time the watch was clearer. So was Dan, cropped right behind her shoulder, blurry but unmistakable. She froze. Dan, still clueless, leaned over. "What's this?" he said. She didn't answer. Her fingers turned the page again. Each new photo added another nail in the coffin. One of them having drinks at the rooftop bar. A selfie she'd posted, with metadata showing it was taken at 2:03 a.m., not just before bed, as she'd claimed. Another from a boutique hotel lobby, where Dan's bag was clearly visible behind her in the mirror. Then came the bomb. I had found a security cam shot, public domain, from a hotel check-in desk. They're standing side by side, his hand on her lower back. Caption, Suite 306, 2-night stay. April 18th to 20th. Reservation under D. Mullins. A hush fell over the room. Her hands were shaking. Dan's face went white. Page 23's my favorite, I said softly. It's got a little GPS map, overlay, and everything. She dropped the album. I picked it up and handed it to Dan's fiancée, who'd been standing near the back of the room, sipping white wine with a smile so tight it could cut glass. Thought you might want to see this, I told her. She took it with both hands. Didn't say a word. Just walked over to Dan and slapped him across the face with a sound that echoed off the exposed brick like a firecracker. Someone gasped. The rest? Dead silence. Dan stammered. Leah tried to talk. I raised my hand and spoke over them. Don't bother. You two deserve each other. I just wanted everyone here to know who they were raising glasses to. Then I turned to leave. People were still frozen. Like statues. Like someone had pulled the fire alarm, but nobody had quite decided whether to run or pretend it wasn't happening. I was halfway to the door when I heard Dan's fiancée say, "You proposed to her?" That's when I smiled. Because I didn't know that part. That was new. And apparently, so did half the room. But not Leah. She turned, mouth open, eyes wide. You what? Dan looked like a rat in a glue trap. I walked out before he could answer. Didn't need to hear it. The moment was already perfect. I didn't look back when I walked out. That's a cliché, I know, but some moments demand a clean exit. Not a dramatic stare down, not a tearful pause at the door. Just the sound of your own heels hitting the concrete, and the echo of 30 jaws still hanging open in a room full of string lights and silence. The night air hit me like a benediction. Cool, calm, detached, just like I felt. The kind of peace you only get after orchestrating a precision strike and watching it detonate from a safe distance. I got into my car, a charcoal gray sedan that never made a statement and never needed to. I liked it for the same reason I liked the silence that followed explosions. It didn't ask for attention, it simply moved. I pulled away from the venue and didn't turn on the radio. I wanted to let the moment breathe. Let the weight of what I'd just done sink into the cracks of my mind. I'd just obliterated my wife's double life. Publicly. Elegantly. No screaming. No fists, no theatrics. Just facts, timestamps, and a hardcover album. It was, frankly, the best performance of my life. And the thing is, I didn't feel the way I thought I would. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even proud. I felt resolved. Like I'd finally cleaned up a mess someone else left in my house years ago. Now, of course, comes the part people never think about. After the big reveal, after the party implodes, and the lies spill all over the hardwood floors, there's still life. There's still the follow-up, the fallout, the slow-motion tumble of what used to be your world, hitting the ground piece by piece. I knew that. I just didn't care. My phone started buzzing halfway through the drive home. Unsurprisingly, it was her, Leah Mobile, blinking like a little mosquito trying to sting me through glass. I didn't answer. I didn't block her either, not yet. I was curious. Morbid curiosity, maybe. I wanted to see what flavor of desperation she'd open with. The first voicemail came in 5 minutes later. Her voice was shaking. Jason, please. What the hell was that? What's going on? Why would you? How did you? Oh my God, call me. Please call me. It didn't even register emotionally. It was just noise. A scene from a movie I'd already seen twice and poorly acted the second time. Then came the texts. A series of frantic stabs at damage control. We need to talk. Please don't do anything stupid. It's not what you think. I can explain everything. You're blowing this out of proportion. Can we meet? Just you and me. I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to be dramatic. I just didn't see the point. You can't negotiate with someone who's already been exposed. Not when all their leverage was built on a lie. She didn't want to talk. She wanted to rebuild. Patch the holes. Walk back into the room like nothing happened. But she couldn't. The thing about the truth is, once you hear it out loud, it doesn't go back in the box. By the time I got home, she'd left 2 more voicemails and started messaging my sister. That part made me laugh. I could picture her scrolling through her contacts like a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, using her last lifeline. Hi, Rachel. Could you please tell your brother I'm trying to reach him? Rachel didn't reply. Not because she was being loyal to me, though I appreciated that, but because Rachel had been suspicious of Leah from the jump. She just didn't have the evidence. Now she did. Full-color, high-resolution evidence, delivered like a wedding album from hell. I walked into the apartment. It was still neat. Her version of neat, anyway. Throw pillows fluffed, candles burned down to tiny wax graves, and a half-empty bottle of Chardonnay on the counter, probably poured earlier that day while she told herself everything was under control. I poured myself a glass of water, drank half, and then dumped the rest into the sink. I didn't plan to stay long. We bought this place together a few years back. A modern loft with big windows and a view of the skyline if you leaned far enough over the balcony. It was our fresh start apartment, the one she made Pinterest boards for. But now it just looked like what it was, a set. I went into the bedroom, grabbed a duffel bag from under the bed, and started packing. Not frantically, methodically. The way you pack when you've had weeks to plan and exactly zero interest in taking souvenirs. I left behind the suits she picked out, the cologne she loved, the watch she gave me that I now realized probably meant, please look the other way. I only took what I owned before her, and what mattered after her. She called again. The phone buzzed across the nightstand. I let it ring. Then, a moment later, a new message popped up, not from her, but from Dan. Dude, we need to talk. The audacity. The sheer corporate-style confidence that he thought there was still a we. I stared at the message and actually chuckled. Not angrily. Not bitterly. Just with a kind of deadpan amusement. The way you'd laugh if someone tried to sell you life insurance at your own funeral. I replied, you already did enough talking. Check the comments under Leah's last post. I'd been watching them roll in, by the way. Her most recent Cabo post, the one with her on the beach, legs kicked up and captioned, nothing but peace this week, 2 hearts. That post had become a war zone. People weren't subtle. They were tagging each other. Some were angry. Some were mocking. One guy wrote, imagine getting exposed in 4K on your birthday. Brutal. That one had 78 likes. Dan didn't respond. I continued packing. Around midnight, someone knocked on the door. Now, a sane person would ignore that. But I'm a curious man. And also not particularly afraid of confrontation. Not when I've already delivered the nuke. I opened the door. There she was. Leah, still in the navy dress. Makeup smudged. Mascara smearing like a melting Monet painting. She looked like she'd aged 5 years in the last 5 hours. Hair pulled back hastily. Her gold earrings missing. Heels in hand like she'd run barefoot halfway here. Her eyes locked onto mine. Jason, please, let me talk to you. I leaned against the doorframe. You've got 90 seconds. After that, I'm going back to packing. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Good start. Finally, she said. I didn't mean for it to happen. With Dan, it was a mistake. You mean the multiple mistakes over multiple months? I asked. Or just the part where you got caught? Her lip quivered. I wasn't trying to hurt you. But you did anyway. Repeatedly. In color. With timestamps. She looked away. It was complicated. We weren't happy. You were plenty happy in Cabo. She blinked fast. I was confused. No, I said. You were consistent. That's what makes this easy. She stepped forward. Jason, I still love you. This doesn't have to end like this. I laughed, short and sharp. It ended the moment you tried to gaslight me while posting beach photos with your side guy's jewelry in the frame. This is just the credits rolling. She started crying. Full on, messy crying. I didn't flinch. Please, she whispered. Don't leave me. I leaned in slightly, just enough so she could see I meant it. I didn't leave you, I said. You left me a long time ago. You just forgot to send the memo. And then I shut the door. She stood there for a while. I could hear her sobbing through the wood, sliding down to sit against the frame like something out of a sad music video. I didn't open it again. Instead, I zipped my bag, double-checked I had everything, and sent a text to Marcus. Done here. Ready for the next step. The next step, of course, wasn't just walking away. It was something a little more lasting. I didn't sleep that night, but I didn't feel tired either. It's strange how clarity works, like a chemical in your bloodstream. You expect to collapse from the emotional weight, to break down or rage out, or at least punch a pillow. But instead, I just felt clean, sharp, like I'd finally walked out of a fog I didn't even know I'd been living in. Leah didn't knock again. She sat by the door for maybe another 30 minutes, probably hoping I'd change my mind, maybe waiting for some Hollywood miracle where I open it, pull her into my arms, and say something corny like, we can fix this. But she didn't marry a rom-com lead. She married me, and I don't do reshoots. I left the apartment just before sunrise, bag slung over my shoulder, keys left on the counter. I didn't leave a note. What was I going to say? Thanks for the memories? Don't forget to water the plants. No. The silence was the note. Let her sit with that. Let her wonder which part of me she broke beyond repair. Because here's the secret. It wasn't the cheating. It was the arrogance. The assumption that I'd never notice. That I'd never do anything. That she could ride two lives like trains on parallel tracks, and I'd just wave from the platform. I drove to Marcus's condo, the one overlooking Grant Park. He's one of those, I like my view to match my ego types, but he's solid when it counts. He had the spare key and a stocked fridge, and more importantly, he didn't ask any stupid questions. Just handed me a coffee, pointed to the guest room, and went back to scrolling through his fantasy league stats like nothing out of the ordinary was happening. That's why I trusted him. The next few days were surprisingly smooth. I went to work like usual, filed reports, sat in meetings, even made a few people laugh. Everyone was buzzing about the party. The gossip mill had gone full nuclear. Apparently, one of Leah's friends posted a story the morning after, some blurry footage of the album and the crowd reaction, and now half of Chicago knew what happened. One guy from logistics called it the most baller breakup in history. Another whispered, I didn't know you had it in you. That part made me smile. Because of course they didn't. That was the whole point. Meanwhile, Leah tried every trick in the book. She texted, called, left voice memos that swung between rage and regret. One day it was, how dare you humiliate me like that? The next it was, you're still the love of my life. I didn't respond. Not once. I archived the messages, just in case. Evidence folder. Always good to have documentation, especially when your soon-to-be ex has a flair for performance. But here's where it got interesting. Dan broke first. It started with a string of missed calls. Then came the email. A subject line so desperate I almost admired it. Please, just talk to me. I clicked it. It was a rambling mess. Something between a confession and a business pitch. He started with, look, man, I know I screwed up, which, yeah, no argument there. Then he went on about how he and Leah were caught in a whirlwind, that it wasn't planned, that he never meant to hurt anybody. The usual lines, all pulled from the Cheater's Playbook, Chapter 1. But then he pivoted. I think she's unstable, man, he wrote. After the party, she flipped. Said I ruined her life. She's been showing up at my place. Crying. Threatening to tell people things. I think she might be spiraling. Just watch your back. I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. Of course she was spiraling. That's what people do when their carefully constructed illusion starts cracking. They don't rebuild. They flail. And she was flailing hard. Still, something about the way he wrote it made me pause. He wasn't just worried about her. He was scared of her. And that gave me an idea. See, I wasn't finished. The birthday party was just Act 1. The reveal. The how could you moment. But now it was time for Act 2. The reset. The part where I don't just walk away, I flip the whole damn board. I called my lawyer that afternoon. Set the wheels in motion. We'd never formally separated assets. Everything was joint, bank accounts, the condo, even our dog, Cooper, though technically he was hers. I didn't want the condo. I didn't care about the furniture or the ridiculous wine fridge or the curated bookshelf she used to impress guests. What I wanted was control and leverage. So I played it smart. First, I froze our joint credit cards. Legally, I could. Financial protection during a separation. She called the bank and flipped when she found out. Then called me 17 times in a row. I didn't answer, but I did send a brief text. This is what boundaries look like. Second, I pulled half the funds from our joint checking into a personal account. My half. Clean, documented, dated. I even left her a little extra, just to watch her trip over the fact that she couldn't complain without looking greedy. Third, I sent a friendly little letter to HR at our office, attaching some anonymized screenshots of Dan's involvement with a coworker. Me, technically, though I didn't specify. Just enough to nudge the ethics committee awake. I didn't want him fired. I wanted him watched. Paranoia is a slow poison. But the real masterpiece came later. Remember how Dan said Leo was showing up at his place, threatening him, crying, spinning out? Well, I decided to help her with that. I posted a listing on Craigslist. Not under her name, obviously, but under a fake identity I created, tied to a burner email. The ad was simple, open-minded, creative woman offering companionship and lifestyle coaching. Discreet. West Loop area. I included a photo, One I'd found buried in her old Dropbox, a blurry, artsy shot of her silhouette on a balcony. Nothing explicit, but suggestive enough. The emails poured in. I forwarded a handful of them to her work email. No subject line, no explanation, just messages like, "Hi, I'm interested in the full weekend experience. Rates negotiable." Her freakout was immediate. She posted a cryptic Instagram story, just the words, "I'm being harassed," over a black background. Dan commented with a thumbs up. People started asking questions. She turned her account private. I watched the whole thing unfold like a slow-motion opera. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I started hitting the gym again, reconnected with old friends. Marcus dragged me to a trivia night where I ended up talking to a woman named Claire who had a laugh like static electricity and eyes that didn't flinch. We got drinks after. I didn't tell her the whole story, not yet. But I didn't need to. She asked me what I did for fun. I said, "Right now, I ruin bad people's illusions." She laughed, tilted her glass, and said, "Sounds productive." And you know what? It was. Back on Leah's front, the spiral continued. Her texts got longer, more emotional, then angry again, then manipulative. "You'll never find someone who loves you like I do." That one made me bark out a laugh in the middle of the grocery store. A woman next to me raised an eyebrow. I just nodded and said, "Cheating wife drama." And she gave me the universal look of sisterly sympathy. I ignored Leah completely for 2 weeks. Let her stew. Let her run through her little Rolodex of strategies, guilt, denial, affection, rage. None of it worked. Then, finally, she stopped messaging. But I wasn't done, because Act 3 was coming, and it would be the finale. I've always believed the end of something should feel earned. Like a good movie, the kind where the twist makes the whole plot click together, not some cheap reveal they shoehorn in during the last 10 minutes, because they forgot how to end it. That's why I didn't rush the finale. I wanted it measured, controlled, poetic if possible. And after watching Leah and Dan unravel in slow, delightful chaos over the last month, I figured it was time to seal the coffin. But not with a bang. No, I was thinking something quieter, sharper. A scalpel, not a sledgehammer. By now, Leah had gone completely silent, which I knew didn't mean peace. It meant planning, the kind of quiet that comes right before a counterattack. But the problem with people like her is they think everyone else plays the same games. That silence is just a bluff. That boundaries are just emotional leverage. What she didn't realize is that I meant it. Every ounce of distance I gave her was deliberate, and every piece of her old life I dismantled was a step towards something she hadn't expected, complete and utter irrelevance. I checked her socials one morning, not because I missed her, but because I was curious how her PR campaign was going. She'd made her account public again. New posts. Rebranded herself. Selfies with captions like, "Focusing on healing," and "Sometimes things fall apart, so better things can come together." Inspirational quotes on muted backgrounds. A photo of a latte with a caption that read, "Rebuilding, one sip at a time." Dan was nowhere in sight. That was interesting. Even more interesting was when I heard through the office grapevine that he'd been reassigned. A polite corporate euphemism that usually means someone's been shuffled into a role where they can't do too much damage while HR figures out how to fire them without triggering a lawsuit. Apparently, an anonymous tip about unprofessional conduct had led to a quiet investigation. Nothing conclusive, they said. Just enough smoke. I didn't smile. Not really. But there was a twitch. A flicker of satisfaction. The problem with revenge is that people think it's about rage. About screaming, breaking things, slashing tires. But no, real revenge is about subtraction. You take away the things they count on, certainty, comfort, their audience. You erase the parts of their life they assumed were safe. And eventually, they stop feeling angry and start feeling hollow. That's when you know you've won. But there was still one card I hadn't played. One final act. You see, back when Leah and I were still pretending to be happy, we'd been working on a little side project. A business venture, really. She had this dream of launching her own boutique brand, a line of curated home decor, the kind of artisanal nonsense that made rich people feel spiritual. We'd invested time, money, connections, built a slick website, bought the domain, had some photo shoots with candles and throw blankets. The works. The site was scheduled to launch the same week she left for Cabo. She forgot all about it. I didn't. Technically, the LLC was under my name. The domain too. She was the creative lead, but I was the one who filed the papers, Who paid for hosting? Who set up the business account? And she? She never even changed the passwords. Not once. Classic. So I logged in. Everything was still there. Template loaded, placeholder products, bio page, launch countdown. I thought about deleting it all, but that felt cheap. Temporary. Instead, I rebranded it. Same sleek layout. Same aesthetic. But the homepage had a new title. The Real Leah. The banner photo? A cropped still of her sunglasses with Dan's watch reflection. Underneath it, the tagline, Curated Lies. Artisan Betrayal. Now available in gloss. I created a few fake product listings. Gaslight candle. Smells like guilt and beach cocktails. Betrayal throw blanket. Perfect for cozying up to your side piece while telling your husband you're meditating. Denial diffuser. Mask the scent of your own nonsense with hints of lavender and manipulation. Each item came with a short description. Not long, just enough to make the point. I linked each product to the corresponding photo from the party album. Still hosted on a private Google Drive. Still timestamped. Still real. I didn't make it public. That would have been petty. Instead, I sent the link to her, anonymously, of course, with a subject line that simply said, "You forgot your brand." She opened it within 5 minutes. How do I know? Because 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Blocked number. I picked up and didn't speak. At first, neither did she. Then, "You're a monster." I waited. "I trusted you," she said. Now that one. That actually made me laugh. A short, dry exhale. "You trusted me?" I said. "That's rich." "You've ruined everything," she hissed. "People are sending me links. I'm getting emails. My mom saw it. Did she like the product descriptions?" "You're sick." "No," I said. "I'm thorough." Click. She hung up. That was the last time we spoke. The site didn't stay up long. She must have figured out how to report it. But that wasn't the point. The point was, for 24 hours, her brand became a mirror, not a mask, and everyone got to see the reflection. I moved on. Properly this time. Found a new apartment. Something smaller. Quiet. Close enough to work, but far enough that I didn't have to pass the places we used to pretend we liked each other. The kind of place where I could start fresh without anyone recognizing my furniture. I didn't date right away. Didn't even try. I spent a few weeks just walking, reading, listening to music I hadn't played in years because she didn't get the vibe. I rewatched old movies, reorganized my files, donated half my wardrobe. I started sleeping through the night. And when I finally did go on a date, with Claire, from trivia night, it didn't feel like a rebound. It felt like air after being underwater too long. One evening, we were having drinks, and she asked me, "What's the pettiest thing you've ever done?" I paused, then smiled. "You ever hear of artisanal revenge?" She laughed. "No, but I'm intrigued." And I told her, not everything, just the highlights. The photo album, the Craigslist ghost, the boutique site. She didn't judge me. She nodded, raised her glass, and said, "To men who don't just walk away. To men who design their exits." We clinked glasses, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a man recovering from betrayal. I felt like a man who ended the story on his own damn terms. I didn't expect closure. That's not what I was after. People always talk about closure like it's a form of justice, like the universe owes you a tidy ending with a bow on top. But that's not real life. In real life, the people who hurt you often walk away, unfazed, unfired, unpunished. Unless, of course, you decide to become the cleanup crew yourself. And I had. But what no one tells you is what happens after. After the emails stop. After the texts go silent. After you've packed up the memories, cleaned out the closets, and watched them get dragged across the internet like a scandalized reality show contestant. The question becomes, who are you now? I'll tell you who I was. I was someone who no longer flinched when my phone buzzed. I was someone who could sit in a coffee shop without scanning the room for familiar faces. I was someone who had once lived with a ghost and finally stopped pretending she wasn't haunting the living room. That alone felt like a win. But then came the letter. Not a text. Not a voicemail. A literal, handwritten letter. Delivered to my mailbox in a plain white envelope with my name written in that curved cursive I used to find charming. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Leah. I sat with it for a minute, unopened, just looking at my name like it belonged to someone else. And then, curiosity got the better of me. I slid a butter knife under the seal, unfolded the paper, and read. Jason, I've thought about writing this 1,000 times. and I know I probably shouldn't. You've made it clear where you stand. I respect that, but I need to get this out, even if it changes nothing. I miss you. I miss your silence in the mornings. Your sarcasm. The way you never complained when I took too long to get ready. I miss feeling like someone saw through all my crap and still stuck around. What I did to you was unforgivable. I know that now. Not just the cheating, the lying, the hiding, the assumption that you'd never do anything about it. But you did. You did something. You did everything. You dismantled me. The party, the album, the website. I deserved all of it. Maybe more. Dan's gone. He left 2 weeks after the party. Apparently, he didn't want to be anyone's public scandal. He said I was too much, that I had too many enemies. My mom barely speaks to me. My sister unfollowed me on Instagram. Every time I get tagged in something, I flinch. But here's the part that really gets me. I don't hate you for it. Because the truth is, you were the only person who really knew me, and still gave me the chance to ruin that. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not even sure I want forgiveness. I just needed you to know that for the first time in my life, I understand the cost of my own choices. And I understand you now. You weren't quiet because you didn't care. You were quiet because you were calculating. I hope you're happy. I hope you find someone better. Kinder. Smarter than me. But mostly, I hope she never mistakes your silence for weakness. Leah. I stared at the letter for a long time. Not because it moved me. Not because I was tempted to respond. But because I saw it for what it was, a confession wrapped in self-pity. A monologue with no audience. A last gasp from someone who finally realized the stage lights had gone out. I didn't reply. I folded the letter, slid it into the shredder, and watched it disappear into thin strips of apology. It felt right. Fitting. No drama. Just deletion. Life moved on. Claire and I got closer. It wasn't fireworks, not the fake kind, anyway, but it was consistent. Honest. She had a way of noticing things without announcing them. Like when I left my mug in the sink for the 3rd time in a row and she just rinsed it with a smirk instead of a lecture. Or when I stared at nothing for too long and she didn't ask what was wrong. Just put a hand on my knee and let the silence breathe. One Saturday, we were walking through a street fair downtown. The kind with food trucks and overpriced candles and acoustic guitar guys playing John Mayer covers. Claire was browsing handmade soaps, and I was busy pretending to care about essential oils when I heard someone say my name. Jason. I turned. It was Dan. Of course it was. He looked smaller, less polished. The blazer was wrinkled. No watch. Hair thinning a little more than I remembered. And most notably, no smug smile. Didn't expect to see you here, he said. I didn't respond right away. Just nodded once. Neutral. Polite. Indifferent. This your girlfriend? He asked, gesturing toward Claire, who had clocked the situation instantly and stepped up beside me without a word. Yup, I said. Cool. She seems nice. She is. There was an awkward pause. He looked like he wanted to say something else. Maybe apologize. Maybe ask how I was. Maybe unload some guilt he'd been carting around like a broken suitcase. But he didn't. Instead, he just nodded, shoved his hands into his pockets, and said, Well, take care. You too. And just like that, he was gone. Claire waited until he was out of earshot before speaking. That him? Yeah. Wow, she said, grabbing my hand. He looks like an unpaid intern at a tax office. I snorted. You're not wrong. We kept walking. The soap lady smiled at us. I bought a bar of something called Burnt Sage and Regret. Claire said it suited me. A few weeks later, I got a wedding invite in the mail. Not Leah's. Thank God. It was from Rachel, my sister. She was marrying her girlfriend, finally. A small ceremony, backyard, casual dress code. I RSVP'd yes. On the day of the wedding, as I stood there watching 2 people vow to choose each other, for real, without secrets or side pieces or curated personas, I felt something settle inside me. Not closure, just peace. After the ceremony, Rachel pulled me aside. By the way, she said, that birthday party thing? Legend. I laughed. Still on your mind? Are you kidding? My friend Melissa tells that story at every brunch. You're like the Batman of breakups. I smiled. And for once, I didn't feel like the guy who got cheated on. I felt like the guy who finished the story with a full stop. No stammer. No ellipsis. Just a clean, perfect period. The end. Subscribe to the channel